G'day and welcome to another Aussie Ideas Man, another edition. Just one day after I evaluated the Cretin's nonsense, I come across this perler, so it's too good to pass up. This one's why I joined Aptera as chairman of the board. And there you go. You can tell it's funny already, can't you? Aptera's chairman of the board, a new one. Now, I should have looked up ChatGTP or what's that other one, Copilot or something, just to see how many companies with 35 employees have boards. I would have thought, but I'm certainly no expert about company structures and things like that, way above my head. But I would have thought anything under 100 employees was a waste of time having a board of directors. There must be a heavy cost overhead to have them, and small businesses shouldn't bother with that sort of thing. So what's going on at Aptera once again? Anyway, usual thing, my style, let's get into it.
I'm Tony Cretin, Aptera's new board chairman. I spent 24 years immersed in the global automotive world with VW, Audi and BMW. I've seen it.
Unfortunately, being immersed in the auto world with Volkswagen, Audi and BMW is a bit too sheltered for my liking. Sure, they're large and good companies overall, but it's just still not enough as far as I'm concerned. And it depends on what you've been doing there anyway, which we don't know. Certainly, if he was running them all, he might have some credibility. But the lower down the chain you go as to what you were doing there, the less credibility you have. And of course, we don't get anything from him in that regard. I'll back up a little bit just to hope I don't miss anything.
With VW, Audi and BMW, I've seen innovation waves up close. I've watched technologies arrive with promise, struggle with adoption, fight cost curves, and then years later become the new normal.
Okay, first thing here is, how many years later does he see them become the new normal? Once again, no information, just mouth flapping, lips moving. Keep in mind, Aptera, the idea came out as Aptera 20 years ago. 20 years is a long time to become the new normal, and it hasn't got there yet. It doesn't even look like getting there. So he hasn't exactly joined something where 20 years has got them to a new normal. I bet he's also seen stacks and stacks of EV startups that have failed. And I'd like to just make mention of the skin cooling on Aptera. I know it's been dropped, but that idea was also 20 years ago, and it was only 2 years ago or less that they went, no, that's never been developed. No good. So you see, some ideas don't become new normals. They become trashed. But so far his mouth is moving and he's proving nothing. Let's keep going.
From that vantage point, I can say this clearly. Aptera may well be the most radically efficient shift in the passenger mobility equation that I've seen in my career.
May well be. Well, he's on the board. He's probably going to see my evaluation. My invitation to him is to give me 10 reasons why it may well be, from his vantage point. He can use all the vantage point he thinks he's got. 10 good reasons why Aptera may be the biggest thing since sliced bread. He's selling snake oil already, and he's just fooling the gullible.
Not an incremental improvement, it's a step change.
Now that's a funny one. Not an incremental improvement. I can show you, since the second part of Aptera, and the first one was doing the same thing, incremental changes. Now remember, this idea, the general design of the body, was Morelli's in the mid-70s, Professor Morelli from Italy. And so if you're looking at the mid-70s, you're looking at 50 years ago. That's a long time to have a step change. And there has been incremental changes. I can't say improvements. I don't even know that they're improved. But there's been incremental changes, particularly since 2019. Just have a look at the 8 fake prototypes of Aptera version 2 and you will see incremental changes. But in any case, it's still Vaporware. There's still no step change. He's got Vaporware for a product, no real production prototype, and certainly nothing to sell to a customer. If you're going to have a step change, you've got to have something first. There is no Aptera.
See OEMs reducing drag by even a few thousandths of a point. Would like.
I'll go back a bit. I must have missed it. a little.
At legacy OEMs, reducing drag by even a few thousandths of a point would likely require significant developments, iterations, and many design trade-offs.
Okay, so he's saying legacy auto only get thousandths of a point improvements in drag coefficients and spend lots of efforts and big money to do it. That's what I thought he said from that. I'm 72. Even I now find it hard to grasp everything somebody says when they're palavering. But he's saying thousandths of a point improvements with a lot of super effort. He doesn't even know that this thing's got 0.13 as a drag coefficient. Once again, I invite him to show me all the evidence where he's certain this 0.13 is a drag coefficient. But in either case, I'll leave it to later editing for me to check what there is out there with drag coefficients around 0.13 and find what vehicles you can buy have the lowest drag coefficients.
And very high investments and tooling risk. Aptera began with one principle OEMs cannot easily adopt. Start with physics.
Now that's nonsense. All OEMs start with physics. If they're going to make a vehicle, they make it 100% due to physics. They can't sidestep physics. So he's trying to tell us that Aptera Motors has used physics when generally major OEMs don't use it at all. They start from some other start point. I shouldn't say don't use it at all. They just don't start from it. I don't want to give false information myself.
Not legacy constraints. Aptera starts somewhere.
I hope you see my video because here's the third thing on my list of things to do for this board chairman. What are the legacy constraints that override physics or come first before physics? Give me a list of 5. That should do.
Fundamentally different. The drag coefficient much lower than others. Vehicle.
As I said, he doesn't know that that's a correct drag coefficient. Aptera has had 6 years to provide independent proof that that's the drag coefficient, and they have skirted around it and not provided it for all those 6 years. I don't believe it has that drag coefficient. In fact, it had it at that level, they claim, before the air intake, and I would think the air intake would reduce it significantly, yet there was no change to their claim. They were saying that an F-150 wing mirror would make a huge difference, and they've put in an air intake that is not just letting air go around it like a wind mirror, but is stopping air through it to cool piping, and so it has to do a lot worse when it comes to causing drag. He's the expert. He should know it, but if he thinks I'm wrong, let me have his explanation of why would a radiator air intake have less drag than a wing mirror of equal size? There's another question for him.
Mass designed to be less than half of typical EVs. Integrated solar.
Designed to be less than half of typical EVs. Unfortunately, typical EVs carry mostly 5 people. That's what's typical. And so if you're going to carry 2 people, you need to be less than 40% of typical EVs just to be ballpark even. Less than half is not good enough.
Power, which is designed to generate up to 40 miles a day.
And there's another one. The old up to 40 miles a day. A long-standing claim that has never been proven. And some tests have actually showed that they're not going to get near it. Did this guy do any research before he joined the board? And now I'm looking at 10 times lower operating energy per mile compared to gas vehicles. Just one more unsubstantiated claim. We need real comparisons, not hollow claims.
10 times lower operating energy per mile and a simplified supply chain with 30 to 40% fewer parts. In my world, these numbers aren't marketing points.
I wouldn't call CPC in Modena, Italy a simplified supply chain. I wouldn't call Co-Stamp in Italy a simplified supply chain. I can't see where the supply chain is that simplified for what is essentially a complex motorcycle. This is not even a car. So if we're going to be comparing apples with apples, compare it with motorcycles. But at present, one sign that it's not a simplified system is that they keep bringing CPC staff over to America to show them how to glue it together. It's not that simplified.
They are strategic differentiators that rewrite cost, capability, manufacturability, and customer experience. The most efficient vehicle is also the most affordable and the most durable.
I question that sort of a statement too. The most efficient is the most affordable and the most durable. It depends on your frame of reference. If you're just looking for pure efficiency, quite often the most efficient vehicle you'll find is the most expensive and maybe the most prone to breaking. We don't know. What we're getting here is just hollow diatribe, palavering, snake oil selling. And we need people that listen to this sort of guff to really think deeper. Don't just swallow it hook, line and sinker.
That is a business model the auto industry has been trying and failing to construct for 20 years. Today with Aptera, it is a near-term commercial reality. And if there's one thing my decades in the auto industry have taught me, it's this. When a technology delivers more value with lower resources at lower cost, adoption is inevitable.
There's one thing that has to happen for any adoption, and that is it has to be for sale. After 20 years, there has not been a product. There has not been one Aptera for sale. So doesn't matter how inevitable adoption is, your decades of experience should tell you if there's nothing for sale, nothing gets adopted. It's that simple. You've left out the fact that they are going broke. You've left out the fact that in all your years of experience, you have seen startups come and go, particularly in the EV space, and they have failed miserably. Nothing to do with any single factor, but a combination of all sorts of reasons. One of them being that legacy automakers usually have the upper hand and so much more the advantage, so they can hang in there and not fail. You know this stuff. So with this sort of knowledge, you should be going, well, Aptera is just going to be another one going down the drain shortly. Now, the other observation I make is that you look like you've been retired and that Volkswagen, Audi and BMW don't want to employ you or put you on any of their boards. And so you've been offered some sort of incentive to join this board where there shouldn't really even be a board with somewhere around 35 employees. You've been offered to join the board, and it's what you've been offered, the incentives you've been given. No idea what they are, but it's probably monetary. Those incentives are the reason why you're reading this pre-prepared script for you, and I'm sure you added a few of your own ideas, but you're doing this because there's something in it for you. And I say to all the gullible fanboys, don't listen to somebody who has skin in the game. Don't listen to somebody who's there to line his own pockets. If you're going to listen to somebody about Aptera and whether it's good or bad or what all the great features are and what all the poor features are, the whole detailed view of it, look at somebody who's not having incentives of any sort. I'll keep going, we're nearly finished.
Aptera is not asking the world to believe in a miracle. It is simply asking the world to believe in physics.
Well, take me for example. I believe in physics. No problem at all. I believe in physics. I believe all the legacy automakers can't make a car without it. And even though I believe in physics, I don't believe in Aptera at all. I have my own opinions, and mostly that it's just a money-making venture, that there's probably lots of, let's say, money gone west. $140-odd million raised, about 8 prototypes, add another half a dozen started, haven't got far with them. Not enough to be valued at anything more than $100,000. If they went at a fire sale auction, you probably might get $100,000 for the lot. No assets, no inventory, no plant equipment, in desperate need of at least $70,000 to even start getting something that they might be able to sell. And that's a long shot. They are in such a bad position. If I were in his shoes with his experience, I wouldn't be joining this board unless they had given me a bucket load of money. And I could sell my soul for money, which is quite possible with most people in business, but not me. I'll move on. Got to get to that end. Oh, this is interesting. I better stop here. Oops, I'll have to go back. The Up Next, I didn't watch it, but that would be well worth watching. Joanna Lumley versus Dawn French. Two fantastic British comics. But in some ways, that new CEO is funnier than the both of them put together. Now, that's all for me. Bye for now. Stay safe.
Right now we don't have regenerative braking, and the braking itself is... and we have just died. We just died. And it won't go into park.
Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I ended up in this situation.
For over a decade now, I have been following the progress of Aptera, a company that wants to make your next vehicle as efficient, as aerodynamic as possible. I am here in San Diego, where I am just about to get a chance to not ride in, but drive Aptera's latest prototype, Gamma. The vehicle behind me is nowhere near production ready. It went alpha, it went beta. Beta was the one without any doors and very little creature comforts, and then Gamma. There was a whole number of different things that are going to change between the final production vehicle and what I'm going to experience today, but come along with me for the ride. After years, I am finally driving the Aptera, and this is the one that was revealed last year at Fully Charged Live in San Diego. I've ridden in 2 different Apteras to this point. The suspension on this vehicle is just about production status, so I've been told.
G'day and welcome to another edition of the Aussie Ideas Man. This is part 3 of the evaluation of Modern Sunlight's evaluation of the Cretin at Aptera Owners Club. It's more than a week since I did part 2, but that's because I had an 8-day overseas holiday and I was in no mood to be doing anything. I think I'll be cutting a lot out because there's still something like 40 minutes to go and most of it's nonsense. So I'll just have to cut large chunks out of it. So here we go.
Light, but it's enough to keep an interested party. Maybe not today, because I think the most satisfaction I got was a post by Bill Smith, 99 something something, who said, on one of my videos, there's really no need for this because Aptera is doing everything perfectly themselves to warn users. And it's true. So I get that sense myself. But I guess there is still a bone to pick with the community and the missed opportunities. I think Steve didn't take the reins of what he had properly to be able to influence the directions of Aptera Motors and possibly investors at the time properly. That's the sad part, because they wouldn't have heard the balanced arguments along the way when people like me, and there are others like me, get silenced by the troll hunters, period. So that's kind of why I threw in one of my comments on Steve's recent videos about the general aviation community. I love the aviation community as
I have listened to this for 16 minutes and I've haven't stopped it because he hasn't evaluated the Cretin at all. He's on that second point, and Aptera Motors rant, which I'm not too interested in.